Thank you for joining me for my last Bible journal of 2019. So I'm doing a Christmas themed journal today and going straight in with my scrap piece of paper to design the wording from the passage. So I'm writing out the word Jesus, and then I'm going to have some writing underneath it. Then after I wrote the initial wording, I thought, I could do with it being a little bit more curly. So I go back and make it a bit more fancier. So looking at the passage, it gives the meaning of why the angel was saying to Mary and Joseph about calling his name Jesus. He will save his people from their sins, and I wanted this in the passage. I've written out the reference, Matthew chapter 1 verse 20, although actually it is verse 21, and I fixed that in my Bible off screen at the I realised it just now. So the verse says, "She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." I put my scrap of paper underneath. I've already prepared my page with Liquid gesso, and this just means that I can write over it and put watercolouring over it without it seeping through. In hindsight, I should have angled the letter U to make it a bit more italic, but it was too late by then, so I could carry on. And I'm just going over my letters to highlight portions of the lettering. I moved the scrap piece of paper underneath because I want it to fit best on my journal, and then I had this idea of the words connecting. Now I'd already written the word save, and for some reason the A came out really small, but I think the important thing was that I remembered the style of lettering to flick the ends of my letters and to make sure that they joined up. Adding in the reference at the bottom in another kind of star font. I'm using So Many Stars stamp set from Stampin' Up, and using Memento black tuxedo ink, and I've got my piercing mat underneath. This has really helped give me a flat surface when I'm stamping in my Bible journal. I'm using the same style star but the smaller version to create a pattern down the rest of the page. I chose the Daffodil Delight colour in the centre of the star, and I go to use the pumpkin pie, and I realised the lead was broken, so instead of sharpening it I actually choose another colour. I've gone in with Flirty Flamingo around the edges of the Daffodil Delight, and then I go in with Rich Razzleberry to do the border. I was going to have all the stars different colours, but I wanted it to look like a different theme from the rest of my pages, so I decided to stick with these three colours. I highlight the wording because I find that the wording looks a bit bland after I've coloured everything else in, and I like to just go over the wording to make it stand out. I remembered from before that I use my blender pen, and this is a really handy tool to be able to control the watercolour pencils without it smudging too much. So it does pick up a bit of the black, that's why I've got my scrap paper to the side and I can just take off some of that ink. I'm going with a dabbing motion with the stars just to make sure that I don't smudge it too much. And then highlighting over the lettering. I use this Splatter Stars stamp, but with this particular stamp you have got to be a little bit more light-handed with it. If you press too hard you do get the smudge of the stamp, and then just masking off the text on the right hand side to create a border. Unfortunately I didn't realise off screen here I'm just filling in the text with some colour. Again, this has been pre-prepared with some gesso, and using my blender pen to pick up those colours. So in my Bible journals, I like to write the date that I actually created the journal, so I've got them to look back on. And then I keep a record in the back. I had forgotten that I wanted to use this mask in my journal. So I grab out my Daffodil Delight ink and a makeup brush, and then putting back my piercing mat for a sturdy surface. So I just line that nicely over the star, and that gives me a guideline as to where to lay the mask down, and just touching up areas that aren't covered with any writing or images and just filling in those gaps. Now, it doesn't show up a lot at the moment. I realise I can actually go a bit heavier handed in with the ink and lay down a bit more colour. So I do go back and realign that stencil to be able to fit where I had it and go back in, and that's much better, it's more vibrant. So I'm hoping to do a walkthrough of my Bible journal to show you all the pages I've done over the year, so do catch me for that final one of the year. Thank you very much. Do subscribe to my channel for more videos.